The Artsindy Crossroads show.
Here's Suk Yen Lee, host for CBC's Definitely Not the Opera and former VJ for Much Music.
I just googled Nick Panu pretending you're Marlon Brando and you're asleep on you're asleep on your laptop.
People in film, theater, music, the arts.
You know, culture and art and expression are fundamental to that essence of life.
A good early evening to everyone here in the Valley. You're listening to CivL Radio 101.7 FM, broadcasting to the Fraser Valley from the UFV Abbotsford campus on the traditional and unceded territory of the Stolo people.
Listeners, right now we are on the line for the band, his new band, the Penthouse Killers. Talking with us on the phone from down in Los Angeles. Jarrod, how you doing? And it's great to get this opportunity to talk to you. I've chased you down. People have been talking to me about your music. They people have passed their music along to their friends. This new album you have out is sick, man. It sounds really good. Some of the tracks on this album, listeners: Front Page Tragedy, Girl Like You, Draw the Line, The Magic Mr. Jones, A Day Like This, Las Vegas, California. How are you doing, Jarrod? I'll let you talk.
Doing good, man. Doing good. And yourself?
I'm doing okay. Jarrod, the new band, when did the new band, your new band, Penthouse Killers, get together?
Started, well, kind of last year, actually. And then I had all these songs I was writing, just standing in front of a Marshall stack with my Fender, just ripping and shredding. And then suddenly all these new songs came. Man, we got to record these. Like, it was kind of just out of left field, because I was doing an album with my friend Heidi down in Texas, right? I was doing an album with her. And there was a couple songs where we were using like heavier guitars in it, and like normally I'm a piano guy, right? Like I studied at the conservatory for piano, and of course, but before all that, I'd been in like punk rock bands and skate rock bands when I was, college, high school, college years, and so like I've always loved that stuff, like bands like All, Big Drill Car, Chemical People. I mean, there's so many of them. Doughboys. I mean, Doughboys are actually, they're part of that Canadian contingency. You had like all these bands coming to Montreal back in like the late 80s, early 90s, and there's tons of that stuff. And I guess you could say it's sort of in the same vein as like 90s garage rock, like it's like in the 90s we took garage rock, like that was our thing. Like we took garage rock and we put it, like it was because of us, like we put it on mainstream radio, and we took like art house film and put it in the mainstream, like that was contribution, and so I still love that, man. I still play it, so I would say it's like a revisitation. It's definitely 90s for sure.
You said garage rock, but around the same time, didn't grunge come out? What's the difference between, for our listeners and even for myself, the distinction between garage rock and grunge? Like grunge came from Seattle, and
I guess garage rock can be like that's a broad, like that's a pretty wide umbrella. Like you can fit so many things under that, but grunge. I remember grunge. I remember when that came out, and it was. Everybody loved, it's funny, everybody loved Nirvana, like everybody. I remember I was sitting in a parking lot somewhere, and one of my buddies had it in his car. He's like, dude, check this out. And it's like, I don't know, I thought it was cool, but like they were a sub pop band at some point, and I remember the sub pop band that I loved at that point was this band called Pond, and probably nobody remembers or knows who Pond was, but they were awesome. And they were like, I thought Pond was more awesome, and they were like a sub pop band, but nobody really caught on to Pond, but they were wicked. Like they were from like the same sort of you ever hear a band called Walt Mink?
No, where are they from?
I'm not sure. They were on Caroline Records,
Oh.
and they did a cover of Pink Moon, and they were just awesome. It was like sort of like early Smashing Pumpkins, like Gish and all that. So, yeah, it was like grunge kind of came around, but like grunge, I don't know, grunge was there all the time. Like if you were following Sub Pop and all that, like you would have heard grunge before it hit. Like it was there long before Nirvana hit. You know what I mean?
Actually, I had a book someone Busker handed me quite a few years ago. It was like 8 years ago. It was on the whole written by a journalist, and like he kind of exploited put the whole Seattle grunge scene on mainstream. But it was interesting. He listed all the bands, and I think he was around when the new scene came out. I think it was Chicago, and then it's really interesting. But maybe I'm going on a tangent.
I think grunge kind of has like heavy metal roots more than anything. Yeah. You know, like I think that like I think it came out of heavy metal, right? Whereas like stuff like bands like All and Big Drill Car and that sort of thing. I think those bands like Down by Law, right, or any of those bands probably came more out of like punk bands. You know what I mean? So. I don't know. Maybe that's the difference when you say garage rock. I mean, it's pretty broad, but like this album's definitely like whatever you want to call it. It's heavy guitars, it's pounding drums, and like the bass lines are just retarded. Like they're just running up and down like insanity. It's like Carl Alvarez. I mean, I don't want to insult Carl Alvarez by saying that, but it's like it reminds me of Carl Alvarez as a bass player from the Descendants. And just killer, man. Like there's just so much musicality going on in it, and high energy too. Like it's just
the pace is faster. I noticed some of the songs.
Well, yeah, there's no piano. Like it's just heavy ass guitars and like beating drums and like riding the crash. You know, just riding and crashing, just like really smashing it out. Like it's awesome. And that's what that 90s was all about. It was just like, you know, nice melodies, heavy ass guitars and drums, and I don't know, just having a good time. Like we're not trying to be dark, you know, we're not like, dude, like we're dark, man. Like we sit and we like read like dark philosophers, like dead existential poets. Like no, it's not really like that. This is just like a revisitation to like the good times, the good times of the 90s. Do I sound like one of those old like guys with the beer belly sitting around the campfire telling war stories? I hope I don't, but like seriously, anyone that wasn't there in the 90s or wasn't present for it, like it was a great era for heavy garage rock.
There was all different kinds of music. Guns N' Roses. A lot of people listen to the older stuff. You know, you see some of the new bands coming out, or I did see them. I don't know what's going on with the scene here, the post-COVID, and venues have shut down here in Vancouver. But when the scene was active, you see these guys jamming. There's
was
like
it ever active?
Huh?
I mean, like when was it was like active? Maybe in like the early 2000s.
Yeah, all
like that's what you're talking about.
Well, the recent active, relatively, I don't know relatively how you would define it as active.
Have you been checking out live bands up there? Is that what's going on, or have they?
No. I mean, pre-COVID, I remember there was
pre-COVID
open mic jam at Pub 340, and this band, then they were getting paid gigs in Japan, and because he was the new guy, I forgot his name. Then he was doing jams at Pub 340. Mm-hmm. But anyways, you talk to the local bands at the time pre-COVID, when there were our main staple venues were still open, and maybe new ones are open up. But anyways, you talk to these guys, and they listen to the older stuff, right? They study the older stuff. They go on everything's on YouTube. It's a cluster, right? So you don't know where someone's influence is coming from. It's coming from the older stuff. So what you're talking about, a lot of people are interested in. There's a keen ear to the dial. Jarrod, were you gonna say something? I was gonna ask you another question.
You're from the island, correct?
Vancouver Island, yeah.
Right. So I was going to ask you if you noticed a difference between the music scene that they had out there as opposed to what was going on in Vancouver, say, like 2005, circa 2005. I mean,
Well, I can tell you from before, but now a lot of people are moving out of Vancouver if they have the chance to move. A lot of people are freaking moving to Vancouver Island. Anyways, yeah, at that before, like I'm from the North Island, so there is a kind of north-south cleavage on Vancouver Island. But from the north, there was like this really hard classic rock heavy metal thing going on the north side, and then you have the ska festival in Victoria. They have the Nanaimo Blues Fest and the Blues Festival in Nanaimo. They started having the Folk Fest, I think, in Comox. But the north where I'm from, the northwestern, it was heavy metal, heavy classic rock, really hard stuff. The heavy metal, the hard bands, Led Zeppelin, but the south is different. That's a different animal. The south part of Vancouver Island.
and that's like Victoria.
Yeah, Victoria and Nanaimo. Because on the north, we're kind of isolated. We're kind of not as sophisticated. I'll be honest, yeah. But
Yeah.
because, but
You know,
that's
my uncle had a beach house out in on Main Island, actually.
where
And so
where's that?
it's somewhere there. I don't know. I hadn't been there for years. I mean, he's long past. But when I was really young, we used to go out there.
No,
and
that
stay-
doesn't ring a bell. Main Island, was it?
Main Island.
Where's it close?
Mayne, perhaps, is the spelling.
Where was it close to?
I don't know. All I remember is going out there, and they had all these. I remember driving around, just like these kind of flash memories of being a kid in the back seat of the car, and we were driving around the island, and it was like there was all these like gravel roads, and then there'd be like a trading post. They called it a trading post, and then there was like another memory of being like at a wax museum and looking at like this guillotine coming down and like
Oh yeah, that's Victoria.
cutting someone's head off. So I mean, it was like, I don't know. I thought it was kind of like a weird. I remember walking around the Empress Hotel and thinking,
Yeah,
like,
that's Victoria. But there's islands off the Vancouver Island. There's lots of islands off it. So I didn't know there's so many islands off it. Like around Victoria, there's the Gulf Islands. There's more.
Yeah.
And then even like Nanaimo, there's Gabrielle Island. It's 10 minutes away. And there's Hornby Island away from Comox. There's
So what was it like growing up there? I mean, was it like that movie Deliverance, where they're like, "We don't like your kind out here, boy"? Like, I mean, was it that kind of thing, or they're like sitting on the
What-
veranda playing banjos, or like what was it?
Well, I'm from the North Island, so my town was on a dirt road, an hour and a half from Gold River, and 3 hours west of Campbell River, 2.5 hours, 3 hours west of Campbell River,
Right.
on the west side of the island. But
It sounds pretty big, man. Like, it sounds like a big, huge place. Like, I've known people from the island. Like, I knew this chick from the island, and she was a party animal. And then she starts telling me about all the bush parties and the crazy drinking and just and she said there's so many differences. And she did get into the live music and the arts, and she talked about a place called was it Powell Lake or something?
Powell River.
Powell River. And
That's
she's-
on the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah, so she said that there was a lot of bands and a lot of stuff, but that a lot of those bands seldom did they play in Vancouver. Like, they mostly just would tour around the island and that sort of thing. So
I don't know. Pre-COVID, there were like 3-4 venues to play in Nanaimo. The Queens Pub had bands play 6 days a week. I remember looking at their schedule when I went 4 years ago on the weekend. I like the island. Like pre-COVID, I don't know what's going on now, but they're starting to open up. Even over here. There was Blues Night at Pat's Pub. They reopened the Wednesday night because they had it only for Sunday.
what's Pat's Pub?
That's on Princess and Hastings.
Oh, that's in Vancouver. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe. Oh wait, you know what? Actually, you know what? I was in there. A buddy of mine drove up from Seattle, and he got tickets to I don't know. We went and saw some band he liked, and it was, yeah, I remember going in there. It wasn't too bad, actually. It was pretty good sound.
You know, over the years since I've known you, you've always played the piano. So not playing the piano creatively, how does that put you into a different groove? Or how is it different for you when you perform? Like, you're not playing the piano, you were always writing, and you're still on lead vocals. How have things changed on this album? Because you're not on piano.
Well, I mean, it's just you writing on a different instrument, basically. Instead of writing the piano, it's like writing on the guitar.
Okay.
I don't know. It's pretty much like it. I guess.
Oh,
okay,
you started on.
Okay.
Oh, you
No,
started on guitar.
No. It's listen. That's actually a valid question in the way, like, in a technical way, probably more than you'd think, because when you write on a piano, and this is just my personal experience, but when you write on a piano, you have different chord structures. You have different theory almost that you're going to apply to when you're writing. Like, there's certain chord structures, and of course then there's going to be certain progressions, right? Because you're just, you're on a different, like, the keys are laid out differently. It's different than what you're going to write in a guitar. So maybe what it was that I'd been playing piano for so many years, because like I said, like in my college days, I played in tons of punk rock bands, and I played drums in a few of them, and but that was all guitar back then. So that was what I did through college. Of course, I always played piano because I studied as a kid piano, and I went to the conservatory and learned all about it. All the nice boring sight reading and the theory and all that stuff that really has nothing to do with songwriting. Though I think you probably want to learn the textbook before you throw it away. Like, that's what I would say. Learn the textbook before you throw it away. You'll be a better writer because of it, obviously. But
and change the rules after you've learned the basics.
Right, exactly. So, but in college, it was just like rock bands, punk bands. And I played drums and guitar for those, and then I don't know. I started getting more into the piano, writing more on the piano, because you can really like when you're playing, say, like if you sit down at a beautiful grand piano, and you're sitting there, and just playing just minor notes, and just there's a certain resonance. There's something, I don't know, something happens. And it's different, I find, than what happens on a guitar. Guitar's more just like for rocking out. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like if I was trying to write a very pretentious composition, I'd probably most likely want to do that on piano. And of course, who wants to be pretentious? But I mean, sometimes when you're making art, it might come off that way. Maybe it's more self-indulgent than anything, but I would say piano, it is different because you're using different chord structures. Different progressions are inevitably going to come out of that. With guitar, it's mostly just like chords, bar chords, riffs, stuff like that. So I don't know, it's a little different. Like the direction you're coming at it from is, I guess it's different. So you wind up with a different sounding thing, a different feel, I would say. Like if you look at John Lennon, for instance, I'd say John Lennon, like if you listen to his compositions on guitar as opposed to his compositions on piano, like they're all brilliant. Really, they are. But if you listen to the piano compositions, I don't know, I tend to think that the piano compositions are a little more deeper. You know what I mean? So.
Well, that's really interesting. Wow. I can think about that. I'm glad I asked that question. You talk about this new album with your new band. The guitars are heavier, a lot heavier. You want to? We're gonna talk again. This is part one of our interview with Jarrod from the band.
This is part one, so we're gonna do a part two. I hope we have some material for the part two, because
with Penthouse Killers. Jarrod, do you want to go into a track that's is really gives a really good is where the guitars are really kind of in your face, kind of really prominent, like Front Page Tragedy, Girl Like You, Draw the Line. Which one do you want to play for the listeners right now to end?
You know what? Honestly, I think my favorite right now out of both because there's 2 EPs. Don't forget, there's the first one, San Andreas, which has a whole another 7 songs on it, and there's the one that you're referring to, A Day Like This, which has 7 songs. That's the most recent one.
Okay.
But if I was gonna pick a song off of the most recent one, I would say Girl Like You.
Okay.
Girl Like You.
Okay, that's what we're gonna play right now. Listeners, this is Girl Like You from the new album from Penthouse Killers, A Day Like This. Lead singer, and I will say, I'm so used to saying lead vocals and piano. Now you're lead vocals and
lead vocals, guitar, ripping guitar, shredding guitar. Maybe shredding guitar is a better way to put it.
yeah. We're just speaking with Jarrod Tyler, lead shredding guitar and vocals. Jared's laughing. You can hear him laughing, listeners. That was a cheesy thing I just said, but
it's like, hey, listen, it's like standing in front of a Marshall stack. Like, if you've ever done it, if you can plug a Fender Strat, like a USA Fender Strat, not one of these, from Japan or wherever the hell else they make them, one from the USA. You plug that into a Marshall stack and you turn it up to about 9, and you stand right in front of it, man. It hits you right in the chest. It's like, so I say, it's like you're shredding, right? So like, we wanted to recreate that and put that same, just like that crunch, that overdrive. We wanted to make sure we captured it in the recording, and you know what? I think we did it better than we've ever done it with any band I've ever played with. I think we've really captured the live sound on the recording.
Well, we're gonna listen to it right now. This is Girl Like You from Penthouse Killers from their recent album, just released, A Day Like This. Jarrod, we're gonna talk again. Listeners are gonna hear again from Jarrod next week, and some more tracks from Penthouse Killers.
I saw you talking with your friends in the hall, posing like burning desire. You saw me sitting by myself in the mall, said you like playing with fire. But pictures, but it's all the same to me. And it was just another Friday night, riding shotgun in a motorbike, getting punch drunk on the pretty city lights. Yeah, yeah, we took your place. Yeah, yeah, in outer space. Yeah, yeah, without a trace. And neighbors get around in the front street, waiting for a front-page tragedy. But in your eyes you knew you'd always be nothing but a weekend fantasy. Yeah,